All right, welcome back to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This is a special one-on-one with the Executive Director of the NCIA, the National Cannabis Industry Association's Aaron Smith, and I, of course, am PCMTV founder Jimmy Young. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us on this last newscast of 2024. I know, it's sad, right? But
Hard
we
to
have a new
believe.
year and new hope, don't we, Aaron?
Yeah, it's great to be here with you as always. I can't believe it's the end of the year. And we've got a lot to look forward to in 2025. I think if we play our cards right.
Well, you're the card player. I'm just the observer, and I appreciate all the card playing that you do in the lobbies of our Congress. But the first question I got to ask you is about the DEA hearing that happened on December 2nd. Um, as you explained to me, the NCIA was represented by your attorneys, but you weren't allowed in the room, but you were able to watch it and observe what was going on. Can you give me a little debrief on what happened during that time?
Yeah, I mean that was a kind of a preliminary, pretty procedural hearing. There wasn't a lot of substance to it, but what the judge did do was kind of lay out what the plan was going to be for the coming now almost 3 months. It's going to be of witness testimony and went through scheduling and those sorts of logistics. So shortly after that hearing, the administrative law judge set dates starting in January 21st, so the day after the inauguration, through March 6th, and it's about 3 hearings a week through that over that span of time. And they will be listening to each day as a different organization's witness, and NCIA's is on January 29th.
Great. Well, we wish you good luck with that one. Um, Quick question. Where do you think the DEA places more value? Is it on the public comments and that was made during that public comment period, or is it in these controlled testimonies?
I mean, I think it's in these the testimony is probably going to be the most important part, but it's all important. It's the public comment. We saw an overwhelming support for cannabis, not just rescheduling but descheduling. That wasn't surprising. This is going to be testimony from not the public but from various public health experts on both sides of the issue here, and I think it's really going to seal the deal. Um, it's important to know that this will be the third time. Well, if the administrative law judge does suggest that cannabis needs to be moved to Schedule 3, this will be the third such time that's happened in our nation's history. But will be the only time that the DEA was the proponent of that change. In the past, that you had organizations like NORML, Americans for Safe Access petitioning for rescheduling, and in those cases, the ALJ actually agreed and said, this is, look at the evidence, years ago even, it was pretty clear that cannabis needed to be moved out of Schedule 1.
The unknown factor was apparent amongst the people that I talked to last week at MJ BizCon. Nobody seems to know what's going to happen, and I'm sure you're in that boat basically of what's going to happen. You don't know, but how quick? Again, it's delay after delay after delay. So when do you think we'll actually see something? Or will the new Congress make it a priority in some capacity?
Well, on the rescheduling front, there has been a lot of delays, and I've probably been guilty of being over optimistic in the past and thinking this was going to get wrapped up this year. Clearly, it's not. We're just in the final stretch though, and so I think on the absolute most optimistic timeline, even possible, would be to see rescheduling of cannabis by the summertime. That would be as everything moved with at a fast pace, and there were no hiccups. Not likely, but I think it is reasonable. From my understanding, from a lot of the experts that are know the sort of process better than I do, is that this could be wrapped up by the end of next year. We are going to get we're likely to get a ruling from the administrative law judge in March, April of next year. And then it'll be some time probably before the DEA actually moves on that recommendation. And it's note that it's a recommendation. As I've said in the past, this is the ALJ has said that cannabis should be rescheduled, and they just ignored it in the past. But again, those petitions were done by were led by outside organizations, not by the government. So we have a much better chance here. As far as Congress, this isn't going to be a priority in Congress, period. There is a lot going on in the world that is a higher priority to Congress and frankly to voters. So we as an industry need to push this up the priority list by being more active in advocating for ourselves, lobbying Congress, activating our customers to contact their members of Congress to move this up the priority list, because that's how that's just how it works in a representative democracy. But that said, I do think there are opportunities to get some changes through in the coming year, probably more on incremental issues like safe banking, for example.
I don't know about you, but I hear that all the time, safe banking. And then you've got the Republicans pointing at the Democrats and the Democrats pointing at the Republicans. And then you get the two leaders of the Republican Party in the House and the Senate both saying, no safe banking. How, why? What is their reason? What are they afraid of with passing safe banking, which seems to be the most simple thing to do right now?
Yeah, I mean, if we could get a clean bill that only addresses the banking issue for the industry and move that through Congress, I think that we have a good chance. And it could be because there's going to be a lot of legislation moving, and there'll be an that provides what they call, lobbyist vehicles to move legislation. So safe banking could be attached to another bill that has to do with the financial system, right? And in the past, we haven't been able to do that just simply because Congress wasn't moving any legislation. But one of the things, to answer your question, that has been a big challenge is, frankly, on the Democratic side, we've had members of Congress who are friends of the cannabis movement who want to make safe banking the best bill, the most perfect bill in the world, and add all of these social justice provisions and all of these other good, well-intentioned provisions, but that don't really have to do with the fundamental issue that cannabis businesses aren't able to access financial services, and then turn off the Republicans. So now that we have a Republican majority, it's really important that Democrats get on board with the idea that we can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We're going to see if we can find legislation that Republicans are willing to support. We need the Democrats to get on board and work in a bipartisan way to improve conditions for the industry. They can always come back later and push, their other agenda when they have a majority. But right now, they frankly don't. So I hope to see some bipartisanship, and I'm calling on the Democrats more so really than the Republicans, which seems kind of crazy right now. But it's been Democrats that have failed to pass SAFE in the past, frankly, because they tried to make it a social justice bill, because they, that whatever this agenda that's been kicking around the Democratic Party these days.
Yeah, and it's funny when you think about that for a second. The Democrats were pushing for social justice. I give them a lot of respect. We both know that the failed war on drugs and all that, right? But at this point, okay, the people that have been most impacted by the failed war on drugs are also going to get a benefit if the banks open, right? If they have access to safe banking, that's going to help them. So I'm hoping that the Democrats can see that point as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're driving the point home as much as we can. I mean, it's small businesses, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses. These are the businesses that are most impacted by the lack of access to financial services, that specifically lending. The big MSOs, they don't need to go and get a small business loan at a bank. They have private, access to private capital.
Right.
So that's, unfortunately, though, there are elements within the Democratic Party that aren't so logical. And I think, this is something for business. We don't like business, Right. So we just got to get over that. And the good news is that, at least on the Republican side, for all their faults, they are a more pro-business, typically a more pro-business party. And so I think there's some opportunities there if we can just get some bipartisanship to pass good legislation that isn't going to be the perfect utopia world, but that's not the way life works. It'll be, some important legislation that can provide relief to the industry.
There you go. Hey, lastly, as you look back on the year, and this is what we do in December, is we look back at the year. Is there one story in particular, if you had to pick one story that was the biggest in the industry this year? It was kind of an odd year. What would it be?
Well, geez, I mean, I think that it would be one thing was that really struck me as a milestone is we had both presidential candidates supporting cannabis policy reform for the first time. And it wasn't just a couple cycles ago, neither candidate would touch the issue, and then we here we are where we had the Republican and the Democrat supporting rescheduling, and then supporting, in their own way, supporting reform beyond rescheduling. And in Trump's case, he supported the Florida initiative, which got a good number of votes considering it, considering the institutional opposition to it.
Yep.
Unfortunately, didn't reach that 660. But also having, Kamala Harris on the other side supporting reform. So that, to me, that was a big, moment in our history to see that. And I don't think we'll ever go forward without that. That's going to be the norm now. So that means that, because we're not going backwards. So that means to me that, this is just a matter of time. Then, for me personally, it was great to see. I've sat in the room with Kamala Harris when she was the district attorney of San Francisco, and she was skeptical of medical cannabis, many, many years ago, right? So to see that evolution has been, was great. So we'll get there.
Great. Hey, that's a great way to end it. Hey, Aaron Smith, happy holidays to you, your organization, your family. Thank you so much for joining us on a somewhat regular basis this year. I look forward to 2025, and hopefully a year from now, we'll be celebrating. Fair enough?
Yes.
All right.
Likewise, Jimmy.
You bet. Let's go back to Elena Pinto now.